Thank you for joining us. We begin this news hour with the Nobel Peace Prize in Oslo. Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has just received the prize for his efforts in reaching peace with neighbouring Eritrea. Abiy Ahmed was recognized for his role in ending a decades-long military standoff and re-establishing relations between the two countries. Receiving the prestigious award, the Ethiopian Prime Minister said he was accepting it on behalf of all Ethiopians and Eritreans who made, he said, the ultimate sacrifice for peace.
Peace is a labor of love. Sustaining peace is hard work, yet we must cherish and nurture it. It takes a few to make war, but it takes a village and a nation to build peace. For me, nurturing peace is like planting and growing trees. Just like trees need water and good soil to grow, peace requires unwavering commitment, infinite patience, and goodwill to cultivate and harvest its dividends.
Well, let's speak to our diplomatic editor, James Bays, who has been listening into the Ethiopian Prime Minister's speech there in Oslo. James, a very personal message, a message of peace from the Ethiopian Prime Minister, a very personal one.
Yes, and people talk about his humility, and I think in some ways that is what the speech was about. It was interesting when we heard from the chairperson of the Norwegian Nobel Committee that she made it clear that he was a recipient of this award, even though he's only been in power for 20 months. She also laid out, though, that the situation with Eritrea, although he was the architect of the peace, that perhaps that hadn't been reciprocated fully from the other side. He, though, when he started his speech, he said he was accepting it on behalf of himself and his Eritrean counterpart. And that theme of humility continued through the speech as he talked about the philosophy that he lived by, the village where he came from, and his life as a young soldier on the battlefield in that war between Eritrea and Ethiopia.
And the fact that, the Norwegian Nobel Committee chairperson talked about the work being at a standstill in her speech and the challenges that he faces was quite also significant and interesting, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, because things are not going all that well since it was first announced that he was going to get the Nobel Peace Prize, and you have a backdrop of regional political and ethnic tension in the country and a huge number of internally displaced people in Ethiopia. She made it quite clear that this was not the Nobel Committee saying you are the man to run Ethiopia forever, a country that's had lots of strong men in the past. And I think it's worth going back to that humility that we saw from the Prime Minister and remembering that when he came to power in April 2018, at the time he did not win an election. His predecessor resigned and he was put in place in the job by Parliament. He faces a really big challenge coming up in May. He faces an election.
All right, thank you for that, James Bays, our diplomatic editor, live here in Doha.